Hey folks, we'll go ahead and get started here at 6:30. Like to call to order Lafayette Township Board of Trustees and Fire District. The notice requirements of section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code and the implementing rules adopted by the board pursuant thereto were complied with for this meeting. Roll call.
Paroli here.
O'Neill here.
Fullerton here. We can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first on the agenda is meeting minutes for approval, March 3rd and March 19th. Any comments, discussions on those two sets?
I just have one comment on the it's February 3rd, correct?
March 3rd,
All right,
March
March 3rd.
19th.
Yeah, there was one section, I think it's the third page towards the top, where during Chief Kavanaugh's report, someone had asked about the pancake breakfast and if all proceeds, if the fire department gets proceeds from the pancake breakfast, and the chief says yes. I don't know if the chief was actually saying yes to that or if there was a distinction made, but I just want to make sure that all proceeds to the breakfast go to the fire association. The fire association then can donate to the fire department if they see fit, but the proceeds do not go directly to the fire district. So I think that if we should clarify that for the official record.
Okay. Motion to approve after that correction.
I'll
Go ahead.
I'll motion to approve the March 3rd minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Those are approved. March 19th.
Those will be March 17th, correct?
That's what I have, yeah.
Yep. I don't have any issues with those. I'd motion to approve the March 17th special meeting minutes.
I'll second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Those minutes are approved. Consent agenda.
Real
Go ahead.
quick, just, we had on the, and I don't know if we do it after the consent agenda or not, but at the last, the March 3rd meeting, we left out the fiscal officer, the revenue status report for February, because there was that typo that Laura sent us the revised report on the 8th. Do we want to
Yeah.
go back and approve that so that we can update those minutes for February?
Yeah, I would make the motion to approve that with Laura's adjusted.
I'll second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Mm-hmm.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right.
And then, while we're on minutes, real quick, I know we don't bring a lot of the social media stuff into the meetings. Some are more active than others online, but there was a comment in a conversation with a resident probably last week that kind of gave me a little bit of pause, only because while it looked like it was probably somebody using an unidentifiable profile, but they were talking like they had inside understanding of what goes on in the township. And one of the things that they brought up was, if you remember, early 2022, the board made the decision to pull, to limit the minutes that were on the website, just to streamline things would be my guess. Because prior to that, there were, I think, they went back like 10 or 15 years, something like that, but the board decided to limit them. But the assertion that was made is that those minutes were removed from the website because the board felt that they weren't accurate. And I just wanted to ask, since I wasn't on the board at the time that that decision was made, if that was in fact the reason that those were pulled off, or if it was just for simplicity, we know there's storage limitations still
Right.
on our current setup, so just wanted to get your guys' take on that.
I don't have any reason to believe that anything going back 10 years was inaccurate.
No,
I think it was more of a storage thing.
Okay, I just wanted,
Yeah, I would
things up.
agree, yeah, no.
that's not
it's-
something that we want
No.
floating around there, so I just wanted to
Yeah.
clarify for you guys. Thank you.
Okay, consent agenda. Everyone got copies of all the reports?
Yes.
Any questions or concerns? Motion to approve consent agenda.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, consent agenda is approved. Fiscal, Laura, do you have anything that you want to add that's not,
Yeah, I sent you guys a note over the weekend. We received the firefighter training reimbursement grant for the fire district, but it came in on the township side. So we're gonna have to supplement that in and appropriate it out so I can transfer the money over to the fire district. And that is in the amount of $4,567.90.
that is correct. Ohio State Fire Marshal grant that Chief Kavanaugh had acquired, he talked about it last meeting. They just sent the check to the township, so I would move to supplement into the township and then reappropriate it into the district where it belongs.
I'll second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, there you go, Laura, that's it.
Before we move off of fiscal, Laura, was that all you had?
Two more things real quick.
Okay.
I also sent you a note that the property tax advance number 4 was received by the Medina County Auditor. So on the fire side, we got $17,290, and that got transferred into the Star Ohio Bond Account Fund, because that was allocated to the bond line item. And also, I did have a conversation, again, today, with Jared from Westfield, and he put it in writing that all fees will be reversed and no minimum balance requirement going forward. So there was money transferred into Westfield, and hopefully going forward.
Comments on
Well,
Laura?
I don't want to, I was more, there were a couple other emails that were sent throughout the month in regards to Westfield. And I don't want to step on your toes on any of the things that were written in those emails, but it was a little bit different tone in those emails. Has your position changed, or?
Well, it hasn't changed based on the fact of their customer service, but I wanted to get more return on our investment in the meantime. So if going forward in the next couple months, things don't shake out, at least we're getting 2% more interest at Westfield than we are at home.
How much did we transfer to Westfield?
We transferred $1,123,654.
And the first 400 gets nothing, right?
I believe so. That was you guys.
No, I know, but I'm just trying to, give it a month.
And we'll give it more than that. Westfield's paying 4.25% right now. Like Laura said, she had some hiccups with that automated low balance fee. But again, I talked to them today again, and actually talked to them a couple times last week to make sure that those won't happen again. But I did want to add too, not to make any comparisons whatsoever, just to let people know, I was going to talk about the transfer Laura just did. Huntington's paying 2% right now. Our Star Ohio accounts are doing good. They're at 4.46%, both for the township and the fire side. So Just wanted to make everyone aware of those. Okay, anything else for fiscal?
Well, yeah, I guess, yeah, I mean, it's a 180 from the tone of the emails that were sent out during the course of the month. I mean, also, still not sure about Westfield. Ty and I talked with Jared and Wednesday afternoon, and he said all the fees were reversed, but when I log in today, this is not what I see. We started with a deposit of $470.50, and we're not yet back to that balance. Something isn't right, and it shouldn't be this hard. I'll do what you guys want, but right now, in my opinion, the juice isn't worth the squeeze. You know, earlier in the month, there's...
Well, clarify, that's from Laura.
Correct,
Okay.
from Laura. You know, earlier in the month, I'm making deposits this morning and was going to use Westfield check deposit machine, but honestly, I'm leery. Also, with the amount of cash transactions that the office has been taking, permits and rentals, it would still be a teller deposit and another stop to make. I'd like to propose two ideas. One, bail on Westfield account, preferred by me. Two, continue to make deposits through Huntington and transfer over to Westfield, like Star Ohio, and transfer money back to Huntington when needed, payroll bills, etc. I am horribly uneasy with transferring everything over to Westfield, payroll bills, etc. And if you decide to keep them, would strongly suggest to use them only as a savings account as explained above. There are enough balls in the air right now, and with the two entities, and their accounts that I would selfishly ask to not make things harder than they need to be. If interest is the main driver, perhaps we could look at short-term CDs, etc. If diversification is the driver, perhaps we should keep shopping. All of the money at Star Ohio earns a better interest. And Westfield adds a layer of complexity for Laura, makes her job harder, and they have done nothing to demonstrate the level of customer service that should warrant giving them $1 million of our money. So, you know, I know it'll fall on deaf ears, but I would again make the motion to terminate the relationship with Westfield.
We'll give them some time.
I have a question.
No, there's no
Oh, that's
questions.
what I want to know. That's what,
Public-
if I ask now
public
or
comments.
later, okay.
Public
I would
comments.
say
yeah.
that
That's what I want to know.
Yep.
when we compared originally Westfield and Huntington last year, I believe Huntington was at 3%, correct? And Westfield was at 5% on anything over 400,000, correct?
Okay.
So at that point, 1 million would be kind of the break-even point. If you get 3% on 1 million, that would be 30,000 a year, correct? If you
Right.
got 5% on 600,000,
We don't need to I get it. We can rehash the same argument, but you're trying to compare an unrealistic scenario. There would be no scenario where it would make sense to put all the money in Huntington. Huntington Star combination is better interest and better service. So there's clearly another reason for doing business with Westfield. I can't find it. If one of you two could give it to me, that would be great. Or you don't have to, it doesn't matter, but there's no logical reason
I'm saying.
to continue to play
If
with
we have a
Westfield.
balance of over 1 million in there, then it's clear that Westfield would be the better choice, based on
Not-
rates then.
Right, then 100% at Huntington. But you'd have to be an idiot to put 100% of it at Huntington. You put your checking at Huntington, where you get the interest from penny one, and then everything over 400,000, there's no reason that we need more than 400,000 in our checking account. Everything else goes in Star Ohio, which will be Westfield. Therefore, Huntington for the checking account, savings at Star Ohio is the better interest, the more reliable relationship, and the better service. And one less bank that Laura has to deal with. Again, there's no logical reason. So,
Other than it pays better interest than 1 million, oh no, anything over 1 million.
Better
We
interest
don't
than who?
have to
Better
have
interest
just
than who?
Huntington and Star Ohio.
Star
We could
Ohio,
have two banks.
whose interest is higher, Star Ohio or Westfield?
Star Ohio right now, Star Ohio does not provide, Star Ohio does not provide an interest rate. It's not a guaranteed interest rate. That's what I brought up, last year when we were talking.
And Westfield can't even charge the fees correctly on our account.
Hopefully they'll get that ironed out, but I mean.
But
if
we're
you-
gonna give them $1 million.
If you compare bank to bank, then I think with a balance over 1 million, it's pretty clear that Westfield is the better choice.
Okay, anyway.
Anything else on fiscal? All right, service.
Service, bid tabs for Coon Club Road and Lance. Got the information back from the engineer. Their estimates engineer's estimate total for both projects was $261,000 about 128 of that was to Coon Club, and 163 was for Lance, roughly. Through them, we've got bids back from Millway, Sarver, and Geauga. Geauga was actually above the engineer's estimate. Millway was below, and the lowest of the two between Millway and Sarver. If you want to take a look, oh, you got these. So I would make a motion to sign these agreements for the road bid to go with Melway for Coon Club and Lance this summer. I think we appropriated $300,000, if I remember correctly, for the projects. And we're looking at $236,900.
And I don't know, Rick's not here tonight, but I don't know if you discussed it. I guess there's kind of two things that jump out at me. On the Melway bid, I mean, the reason it looks like to me that they came in significantly lower is what they've allocated towards traffic control. It looks like the engineer's estimate is 7,000, and they came in at, sorry, it's pretty small, what is it, 8,300? Compared to 29,630 for Sarver and 40,000 for Geauga. Any idea why those numbers are that off? Like, for there to be that big of a discrepancy in what they're itemizing, I mean,
Right.
are we really comparing apples to apple? Like, that's a huge difference. I
It
mean,
is.
to be 20% of the labor costs on traffic control.
Right? And I would agree, I don't know
Well,
what
okay.
I would pay for.
But we've had Melway do plenty of projects in the past. We haven't had any issues with that.
No.
Okay, I'll second.
All right, so you're motioning $236,926.15 to
Yes.
Melway.
Yes.
All right.
For both projects combined.
Okay, we got a second. All those in favor, aye?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Melway, Coon Club, and Lance. And apparently, there's 3 copies to sign for all of us, right?
Yes. One original, 2 copies. You guys want to get these before the end of the night? I'll put them by the minutes.
Yep. Anything else for service?
No, nothing that wasn't in the report.
Okay, fire?
Hello, everyone. We had 70 calls in the month of March. Sorry. 2 were Chatham, 2 in the city of Medina, 41 in Lafayette Township, 2 in Litchfield, 1 in Montville, 11 in Chippewa Lake, 7 in Gloria Glens, 1 in Lodi, 1 in Westfield, and 2 in York Township. 46 were during the day and 24 at night. 64% of those were EMS calls, and the rest were other incidents, fires and hazardous material. A minute 45 seconds turnout time, and a minute 54 year-to-date turnout time, and about 5 minutes and 30 seconds to be on scene, so pretty well there. We gave mutual aid to York Township twice. Chippewa Lake, we received mutual aid in Chippewa Lake 2 times, and Gloria Glens 2 times, and Village of Lodi once. We gave mutual aid to Village of Lodi once, so. And Montville Township once. Our pancake breakfast has started this month. We had a very successful day yesterday, so join us for the 13th. We're not going to do the following Sunday because of Easter, and then the 27th is our last day this year. Our department members provided training in safe driving and fire safety to firefighters' career pathway opportunities at Cloverleaf High School on March 12th. We provided CPR training for 26 Ohio Edison employees on March 19th, and they provided us with down power line training on March 12th. We provided CPR training to 8 Medina County Country Club employees and 2 members of our community on March 24th. And we received notification that we were not selected for the State Fire Marshal Equipment Grant, which is different than the one we talked about earlier. We got it last year for turnout gear, but sometimes they take turns with that kind of stuff, so I'm not sure what different this year. But Medic 1 was sent to Fallsway for service for a complete service and has returned and is back in service. Our training nights have returned, and we're focusing on basic firefighting skills and EMS work. 7 of our firefighters are still doing very well in paramedic school. 2 will graduate in August, and 5 will graduate in December. So we'll have 22 paramedics by the end of this year. And our fire alarm system here at the station, the detectors are at end of life, at least they're showing end of life. So there's a quote for, I shared it in the email, for $2,370 to repair the current system. That's up to that amount. They could potentially repair it in a very short time, and it would be less, but that would be the most they would charge us, is that $2,370 to repair the system. It's in what's called trouble. There's some sort of one of the detectors is not reading properly, and we're gonna need to get that fixed eventually, so.
Brian, when you and I talked the other day, are you still trying to work out more quotes, or?
So I've got 2 quotes. One was to replace the whole system entirely, and I think that's out of the question. Yeah, that was like a $17,000 quote. And then Corson came back with a quote to fix the system and then maintain the system. Right, currently we're using ADT. We're paying ADT to monitor the system. The equipment is all Johnson Controls, and Johnson Controls equipment is very difficult to, or it's very expensive and difficult to maintain. And then we have environmental controls doing our hood and suppression system. So we have 3 different companies currently for one system. So I would like to try to streamline that to one system and at least get it fixed now, and then kind of keep gathering quotes and see what we can do with it.
So what
But
you're,
Corson is saying they could fix the problem and then fix the system and take over the system without much cost. It would be $22,411 to take it over per year. So it'd be $2,411 per year to maintain it. We're spending about just under $4,000 for the total system.
so we're you're wanting to eliminate ADT and Johnson Controls? And
Yes,
just
I mean,
put
we
it all
don't pay
under-
Johnson Controls. They just put all the equipment in. But
Or
I believe-
environmental controls?
Yeah, or whichever, yeah. And I can talk to environmental controls about maintaining kind of what Corson did, but it's a $17,000 quote and a $2,400 quote, so I think easy pick, but I mean, if you don't want to make the decision, we don't need to make the decision, but we at least need to get it fixed.
I was gonna say they're 2 separate issues.
Yes, sir.
Repairing the
Yep.
system, and then for ADT, are we on any type of long-term with them?
I do
or-
not believe so. I spoke with Laura about it. Didn't we talk about that? We're not in any contract with them?
Correct.
Right. It's gonna save us a little money in the long run, I think.
Mhm.
So. And that's all I have. Have a good evening.
Short tonight.
Well,
Yeah.
just go back to that, I mean, you're wanting to make this happen though, Brian, right? So,
Yes, sir. I mean, I'd like to get the alarm system fixed. We're the fire department, and we should have a working alarm system.
yeah, right,
Since we
exactly.
tell other people they have to have
Yeah,
a working
yeah,
alarm system.
and you're ready to go sit down, let's
Yeah.
finish talking about that. All right, so, I would move to, I would make the motion to approve $2,370 for Corson to get the system back up to par where it needs to be. But then hopefully by the next meeting, then you can have more of a monthly maintenance, agreement
Yes, sir.
cleared, okay?
I'll second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, pose same sign, all right. We'll get Corson in here and get that rolling.
Thank you.
Do you have
I do want to just kind of go along with what Chris said earlier at the beginning. I do want to clarify one thing on Chief's report. The pancake breakfasts are operated by, and the proceeds benefit the Lafayette Township Firefighters Association, and not Lafayette Township or the Lafayette Township Fire District. The Lafayette Township Firefighters Association is a private organization with no affiliation to the township or the fire district. They themselves made this very clear in a letter dated July 25th, 2024. The letter was sent from the association's legal counsel to a resident who had made requests for records. The letter read in part, the association is a private, non-for-profit corporation incorporated and registered with the Ohio Secretary of State. The association is not a public entity or public office, and therefore its documents and/or records are not public records subject to disclosure. The association will not comply with your request as it is not subject to Chapter 149 of the Ohio Revised Code. This distinction has become even more important as the Firefighters Association has begun using donated funds to promote ballot issues that align with their mission. While that may well be within their legal rights as a private organization, any use of public funds or public resources in the advancement of a ballot issue or candidate are expressly prohibited by law.
Okay. Anything else for fire? Good. All right, police, Lieutenant.
You got a report this time?
Little one.
All right.
We had 444 total incidents in March. Some of the highlights from that, there were 163 vacation watches, 42 agency assists, which is mostly assisting the fire department and EMS, 6 accidents, 4 disturbances, 46 traffic stops. The new stop sign is working pretty well at Ryan and 162. If you've driven through there, you've seen our officers sitting there watching it, hoping to educate, hoping to get people's attention, and we do have some new officers to swear in. This will be our 39th and our 40th officer, and we have a 41st that's in the academy that will graduate in May. Both of these officers just recently, last week, graduated from the Lorraine Community College Academy class. They were both in the top 3 in academics in the class. Kirsten Beje is local from Norwayne High School. She also has a bachelor's degree from the Ohio State University, and she just finished the academy last week.
About time you stop bringing the Michigan people in.
Right, no more Michigan people. That one didn't work out. I'm kidding. Tyler Rose, he's also local. He's a graduate from Midview High School and also has a bachelor's degree from Cleveland State University. So if you guys want to come up, get sworn in Lafayette.
All right, if you raise your hand. I state your name.
I, Tyler Rose.
Do you s- No, go ahead.
You want us to
Yeah,
say-
just doing.
I, Kirsten Beje,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America,
do solemnly swear. Go
Same time. Do solemnly swear that I will support
support
the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio, and the resolutions of Lafayette Township,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Ohio, and the resolutions of Lafayette Township.
I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer for Lafayette Township,
I will faithfully discharge the duties of a police officer for Lafayette Township,
to which I have been appointed according to the law,
to which I have been appointed according to law,
and to the best of my ability,
and to the best of my ability,
consistent with its contract with the City of Medina Police Department.
consistent with this contract with the City of Medina Police Department.
And then one last disclosure, we're not violating any child labor laws.
Are you sure we all said how old are they?
All right, thanks, Lieutenant. Zoning's next.
Sherry's not with us tonight, but we had 17 permits and 1 variance written, up from 6 permits in February. Fees collected were $1774.84. with a valuation of $521,339.51. We have a second variance of the year that was received. That hearing will be held on April 15th, 2025 at 6:30 here. We have development. I think you guys both saw the site plan that was submitted and will be presented tomorrow night at the zoning commission for the 19 acres over here. So that'll be going on. We'll do Hunter Drive later. The only other thing, I know we had talked, did you get a chance to talk to Sherry about her voicemail? I had sent that email
Yeah.
about a week or so ago. She's having trouble with it.
Yeah, I told her we'd make a time to go up to AT&T and get it ironed out. Right now, she has a workaround. She was able to download an app
Okay.
and access them that way.
Other than that, unless anybody's got any questions, that's zoning.
Yeah, I do have a couple. So Sherry, I don't know if she had talked to you guys about it, but there's a house on Spencer Lake that has this big, green container.
Connex.
Something like that. So she's been in communication with these folks. They just tore down their old house, built a new one, beautiful home. And that container's still out real close by the road. And so she's been communicating with them since the fall. And then it's still not there. And one time he said, well, we gotta wait for winter for the ground to freeze up to get the big truck in there. Well, that kind of makes sense. But then the last time she reached out to him, I guess he was fairly abusive on the phone and swearing. So I'm not sure, do we want to have her just type up a letter and the trustees sign it and give them X amount of days to get it moved, or?
Like a zoning violation type storage.
Figure I'd ask you guys what you thought, obviously.
It's one thing to work with them, but if they become
Yeah.
abusive or belligerent, then yeah. I would say that makes sense to do
Yeah,
that.
I can work with Sherry and we can get something
Okay.
out.
Okay, and then she had sent out an email all of us about, and then she was saying that other townships, the zoning inspector checks setbacks and stuff on permits. What was your guys' thoughts on that? I mean, I don't know that we've ever done that.
No.
Other than the PUDs and stuff.
Right.
Well, even those we do.
Well, yeah, Lewis Land does those. so-
Right. I discussed that with Sherry and Karen both, and I think it actually came up at the zoning commission meeting. In theory, it sounds good. The issue winds up being, at least in my opinion, Sherry, our zoning inspector isn't equipped to be able to certify the property line and that it's where it's at exactly. If we're going out there, if we make that part of the process, and we do that, and we miss it, now the township's liable for correcting it. Whereas, our zoning code is very explicit in where things need to be. If somebody doesn't put it somewhere, then it's on them to remedy it. I don't know if that makes sense. I think the intent is good for the townships that do that, but I don't know, again, unless we're gonna build that into every permit, that we're gonna go out and restake property lines to know exactly where everything is. I think it's an unnecessary step that, one of those, it's a solution in search of a problem.
I see what you're saying. It probably wouldn't hurt to go out and check to make sure there's no gross violation. I get if, just because a zoning permit is
Yeah.
issued, and if they don't follow it, just because we may not catch it, doesn't mean they have the right to continue in violation. You know what I mean?
No, I do, but I guess what I'm saying is if we make it part of the process, it has to be part of the process for everything.
Right.
Because I get what you're saying, right? Like if somebody's building, and it's nowhere close to a setback, even if you're not perfectly accurate, you're
Easy call, right?
it's an easy call, right? But if somebody's pushing a setback and we can't, if we make it part of the process, we can't pick and choose when we make it part of the process. So now we're going out there and we're certifying as the township that it's built where it's supposed to be built. Even if she does everything that we've asked her to do, she doesn't have the tools and it's not her fault, it's just, she doesn't have the tools and the equipment to properly survey the property lines and the building, but then she has to issue a permit based on that. If she makes a mistake, and then somebody identifies it in the future, sues for remedy, the property owner's gonna go, you signed off on it, the township approved it, it's where it was supposed to be according to them, we're gonna be paying to fix every zoning issue.
Are you saying that she would have to go out and make these measurements before issuing the permit?
That's kind of the way that the process was discussed, was that and I don't know that, I can't imagine that other townships take it to that extreme, but maybe
I
they
couldn't
do.
either.
But the way that it was discussed in the zoning commission, that I'm gonna guess is the reason why Sherry sent the email, was that she should be going out and certifying that every permit that's written, things are built exactly where they're supposed to be. It sounds good,
Yeah.
but it does cause other issues. And if we want to consider doing that, we certainly can, but then I think that we probably want to identify some additional training and tools that we want to give her to be able to, or anybody that's doing that job, to be able to do it effectively and efficiently. Just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think that she could issue a permit based on their application, assuming that everything is, it's correct, right?
Right.
And then they could go out and build it. She could go out and check it. I don't know if the proper term would be certification.
Well, no, because at that point, we've already issued the permit, so
Right.
we're not, yes.
But just because we issue the permit doesn't give them the right to get away with it if they do. You know what I mean? It's, you
Yeah.
still have to build it and, you know, the permit is being issued per the zoning code. You still have to follow the zoning code. If she goes out and finds a gross error, you know, then she could bring it to the board, or, I think that is a,
So you're talking about it
Reason-
after the issuing, after it's built, or just a check that it's
or, you know.
it's been done and it's where it's supposed to be.
Right, or if they put a concrete slab on, they're gonna build a shed on that or
Right.
something. I guess you don't have to wait till the shed is built, you could go out and do it.
We
You know what I
can-
mean?
We can look at adding that to the process. I think we can do it in a way to accomplish what you're talking
It's a
about
safety
without
feature.
adding additional exposure. Okay. Yeah, we can work on something and have it for the next
All
meeting.
right, good, good. And then third one was, she'd also had reached out to me, this was weeks ago, about a property on lot 5650, like 15 acres or something. First property in off the city.
Oh,
Something
yeah.
where they're talking
Yeah, is there
trying
any
to annex or
updates on
something.
that, or?
Yeah, that's the one that she had emailed. It's the very first parcel, well, actually, the same person owns the two parcels, the first two parcels, next to Sherwin-Williams on 42. So he's potentially looking at doing some things, with that, and wanted to know kind of what his development opportunities were. That's light manufacturing for us, and depending on whether he wanted to develop in line with our code, he had already reached out to the city about possibly annexing that property. So I did get a chance to talk to, not the property owner, but a surveyor that he's working with, and just let him know that before he makes a decision, because ultimately it's the property owner's decision. If they want to annex, as long as it meets the requirements, there's really it's not our say or the city say, he can just do it. But I did ask him that before he would do that, to potentially, you know, if he would approach us with what his plans are. Because obviously, you know, if he annexes to the city, he's gonna develop whatever is gonna be developed there, and it winds up being city and city revenue. If he at least has a conversation with the township, we may you know what I'm saying? Like, we can at least entertain possibly finding a way for his project or whatever he wants to do. And he's had a couple of different ideas, some fit, some don't. And he's not given any indication that he has a direction yet. But I just asked him to reach out to us so that if it was something where it's gonna be built anyway, if we can keep it in the township, we keep the revenue versus having to split it with the city. So
Makes sense.
it may or may not.
Was his initial plan to do a multi-unit residential? I thought that's.
He had like 3 or 4 different things, and they ranged everywhere from a commercial use to residential use. So, you know, obviously it's a much bigger conversation
Right.
than here. And I guess my thought on it was, when I talked to Sherry about it, you know, if he puts it in the city, then our zoning means nothing and we get no say on it. So if we at least get an opportunity to discuss what his thoughts are.
Is that his equipment by the barn there?
Yes, yeah, he works in excavating, and that, right now, he just uses it for storage of his equipment and everything like that, but,
Good,
so,
all right,
Thank
good.
yep.
That's it for zoning. All right, public comment is next.
Oh,
RP track, Ryan Road. I was wondering, I had heard that the trustees had decided not to take comments from the public for a meeting or two. Did that happen?
Back in November, we did. Was it November? September, October, there was 1 month where we did not have public comment.
Why?
It got a little out of hand the previous couple meetings, and that was a decision that I made at the time as the board chair.
So, the public, who do you guys work for?
Public?
Okay, that's my point. So, my question is, why do you think that you can tell your employer you can't speak? Whether it gets out of hand or not.
It got ugly, Barbie. There was people talking out of turn, it was pointed, and we resumed having it. It's not something that's required.
No, well, I understand it got resumed, but I'm a little surprised that it even came up. So, you know, somebody got on hand with any of us, you know, I guess we'd call the police if you were threatened. So, I find that very disturbing. So who agreed to that? Who voted to discontinue the public?
We did the board chair. I was the board chair at the time, and during that meeting.
So you can just decide on your own?
The board chair can, yeah. Public comment is not a requirement.
No.
I mean, a
Who
public
do you
comment
work-
period.
Huh? What?
A public comment period is not a requirement in a meeting.
So have you ever worked for somebody where you refused to hear what they had to say?
I can't recall, I don't know.
Okay. I just want to remind you that you do work for us. And then what's coming up with the next election?
What is coming up?
Who's up, who's running on the
Our
next?
2 seats are up for reelection.
And one more question. Are you all still supporting the taxpayers paying for your insurance deductible?
That's something that the township has done for quite a while. And
I know
I'm sure that we'll be talking about it.
We went through that last year.
it's on the agenda for later.
It's been the policy for quite some time.
Yeah, I can't do anything about last year or 10 years ago, but I can now. And that's why I'm asking if any of you are willing to have benefits that are more conducive to what the people in the township have, that are paying for your benefits.
We'll be talking about that later, I'm sure.
Yeah, but then you won't be taking comments afterwards, right? Because you work for us, but you won't hear what we have to say.
You can say what you want right now. You're up here.
I am, but I'm getting to when you're gonna discuss it later,
Right?
we won't have any input or comments after you discuss them, right?
Well, how about this?
Yeah.
I'll move to amend the agenda and add public participation, another session for public participation right before any necessary executive session. You okay with that? We'll reopen the floor.
Chris?
I'm okay with it. I'll second that.
Okay.
Are we planning on having an executive session?
I'm just, I have no need for one. I'm just saying like where I would put it on the agenda as well.
So, the benefits thing is coming up. So, and we don't know what's gonna happen. So what I would like to know is from each of you, do you support us paying your medical insurance deductibles?
I don't take the insurance.
Okay.
So, that's where I stand.
That's a policy that's been in place.
No, no, no,
The
no, I
policy
asked-
has been.
I'm asking you if you would support us paying for your medical insurance deductible.
If elected officials are allowed to take the insurance, then the insurance is administered the same way amongst employees and elected officials.
Okay. But so you're saying you guys don't have any say in the
We
policy?
have a say, we could probably, I'm sure we could deny it. We could deny insurance. We didn't have to take it, if that's where you're going with it.
My thing is with the deductibles that we pay. So who picks the policy that you guys use?
We vote on it.
Okay, you're making my point.
Okay.
So, are you gonna support the taxpayers paying your medical deductibles? This term coming up when you discuss it.
We'll be discussing it later. If we come up with a plan, the township has reimbursed the insured for claims under the deductible, up to the deductible amount. Whether that deductible may rise, it may lower. It was raised recently in return for getting cheaper premiums. So
Right, yeah, I
so-
get it.
Okay.
But at the same time, God forbid you all used the maximum on your deductibles, that's like $70,000, right?
No. All of us combined?
Yes.
Uh,
60,
Probably close to that.
yeah. So would that be saving the township money?
No, but that may or may not happen. I don't know that we've ever maxed out in the history of the township paying deductible.
Yeah, but you need to take that into consideration.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, at two different companies, I worked with two different people where they basically worked for their insurance. They got very little paycheck at the end of the month. So you guys are working part-time, and you know it sticks in my craw,
I know it
the
does.
$10,000 deductible. And I would like to see you guys have something that's more comparable to what us people are, what we have, and we're paying for you. How about you, Ty? Would you support the taxpayers paying your whole medical deductible?
I would say yes, because it's been happening for 50 years.
No. You see, you keep
Yeah.
going back. I'm looking to the future.
Yeah,
And just because it was, doesn't mean that
Yeah,
it needs
I-
to continue.
I heard you the first time, and my answer is absolutely yes. We negotiate plans for our full-time employees to the best
And you're not
we can.
full-time, right?
Let me finish. We negotiate our insurance for full-time employees. Elected officials in the state of Ohio can get the same health care plan as their full-time employees.
You
Nothing better.
Yeah. Well, can you get any better than what you have? You know, what are you guys paying, like $50 a month?
Currently,
Yeah. And you're working part-time, and I'm sure there's people, not just here, but in the township, that don't have anything near that and work full-time.
That may be, but.
Maybe.
So because it's been done for so many years, there's no reason to change it?
It is
I
common
mean,
throughout the state of Ohio.
I
It's
don't care.
common.
I'm living in Lafayette Township, and I think that you guys should have benefits that are more comparable to what the people are paying. Their benefits in comparison to what they're paying for you to get.
What other questions you got, Barb?
This Westfield thing, I'm trying to be respectful, okay? So, I haven't heard about it.
Barb, let me do some math.
Let me ask you a question.
I'm gonna do some math for you, Barb.
Okay, you do work for me, right?
Yep.
Okay,
I'm
so-
helping you with the math so I can show you. So let's just say the first 400 is at 0% and the rest of it's at 4.25. So 700,000 times 4.25% is $29,750. Okay, in a year. That's the interest that would make at Westfield. Sorry, so let's take $1,000,001 that we transferred times 2% at Huntington. For a year, that's $22,000. That's $7,550 more that the township makes at Westfield in a year.
What about?
You have to compare apples to apples
Yeah.
to make it make sense.
Yeah, what I was gonna inquire about is the fees that we're getting charged, that we shouldn't be getting charged. Help me out, Justin, you were talking about that.
Yeah, Westfield charges, they're not supposed to be charging fees, we get billed fees every month.
So
And
how
then
long
they
is?
And then they reverse them.
Okay, so it's kind of a pain in the butt? Okay, I think I'm about done. Oh, and when is the election?
Hey, Barb, can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
So since we're doing 1.1 mil, if we put 200,000 of it in Huntington, and let's just pretend like Huntington doesn't pay us anything, but we know that they pay us a little bit, and then we put the other 900,000 in Star, Ohio, that makes $40,500 in a year.
What's her name?
$11,000 more than what Westfield makes. So while my colleagues like to argue about Huntington versus Westfield, both are stupid ideas. Huntington plus Star is significantly better.
So how long?
I have one vote.
By that though, wouldn't Westfield plus Star be even better?
No, because the first 400,000 at Westfield gets 0, where the first 400 at Huntington gets 2.
But if you keep $1 billion in there, then you could have 5 and still go Star Ohio.
But, okay, how much money do you want to put in Westfield?
Whatever we have.
Okay, so you got 1.1 in Westfield. You get nothing on the first 4. Then you get 4 1/4 on the next 7, which Ty worked out to 29,750. Okay? If I put that 400 in Huntington, I get 2% on that 400. The other 700,000,
Put it in Star.
actually, I would only do 200 because there's no reason for us to keep 400 in our checking. So you do 200 in Huntington's checking, which you get 2% on, but let's just not even count that. The 900 that would be in Star would get us 40,500. It wins by a mile. So again, it's 2 votes to 1. You guys can do what you want, but
So what's-
stop pretending like it makes us more money. It doesn't.
So what's the
Under no
hang-up?
scenario.
So what's the hangup?
You need competition, Barb, because you can't just put all your eggs in one basket and
So-
let it go willy-nilly.
So we're betting
You
on the
always want
Browns
to have
instead of the
2
Chiefs.
companies competing for your business.
So that competition, because you need competition, it should cost the township money?
No, it's not costing the township money.
You
It
should also
absolutely
remember,
is.
While right now, Star Ohio is paying slightly higher.
4.46.
It may not. Star Ohio is not a guaranteed rate. There is a risk of loss with Star Ohio.
How
It may or
long-
may not happen.
How long has Westfield guaranteed those rates for?
I don't know off the top of my head.
They're not.
They're
We
not
have
there.
somebody in the back that cannot hear you all. You need to
So
speak
I
up.
can't hear because there's, I
Is your-
can't hear over all the,
Yeah.
I can't hear to do the minutes.
I have one more question. To my fellow neighbors, do you guys think you should pay for?
Well, no, you need to address
You
the
have to
board, Barb.
address it.
Why?
You can talk with them
They can
after the
raise their
meeting.
hand.
No, it's not a free-for-all.
And, no,
Thanks.
that's not a free-for-all, raising your hand.
The person at the podium addresses the board members only. If you want to address the audience, you can do that after the meeting.
Would you talk to another employer like that?
Yes, I would, Barb. Those are the rules of public commenting. I'm just being honest.
The rules, well, I think we should have input on that too,
Okay,
since, we are your employers.
yep.
I think I'm done.
Here,
Anybody
oh,
else?
thank you. Real quick, before that though, we did have a motion in a second. Can we get a vote on adding public participation back?
Oh, yeah.
At the end? All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Yep.
Okay. So we'll do another public participation at the end if anybody's interested.
Anybody else? Yep.
Angela Ventura, Chester Lane. So I have a question. You talk about public comment not being a requirement. Have you ever reached out to the prosecutor's office to ask about that? They have told you it's not a requirement
Yes.
after
Yes.
you had public
As our
comment?
law director did.
Is following procedure at the meetings important to the board at all?
Yeah.
Really? Because you didn't tonight. There was a vote put up, you didn't follow procedure. So I don't know how you even expect your constituents to think that you know what you're doing as far as banking when you can't follow simple procedure. It doesn't make sense what you're doing with the banking. You're making things harder on your fiscal officer. She's having to chase down these fees just to get your money back. You're not earning interest. It doesn't make sense at all. And then what's most concerning, and I'd like to get I'm making a records request right now for the information that was put on the record right after the Chief Kavanaugh's report, please.
I'll send a copy to you for the minutes.
Okay.
For the Fire Association.
Okay.
Because I know a resident, after asking some questions, some financial questions about the Fire Association, was threatened for doing so. I mean, this was back in the summer, and this just recently happened. And first of all, the association refused to answer any questions, which I would believe the treasurer should do. But after reviewing the tax return, the 2023, because that's the last one that's out, makes absolutely no sense. And
Are you still talking about fire association?
I am.
Okay, because we're not taking those questions at this meeting. This is trustee meeting. Fire association, you need to go
Of
to
which,
fire
of
association
which
meeting.
you are on the board.
No,
And
I'm
Chris
not.
is as well?
No, I'm not on the board.
You don't sit in on those meetings?
I sit in on the
Board of Ed?
meetings in the audience. I'm not on the board, but we're not talking about
Okay.
fire association at this
And-
meeting. Do you have another question for the
And you should care
trustees?
about your residents who go to these breakfasts and pay their money, because here's the thing, people are generous and good-hearted, so why don't you care?
That's exactly why we do it, and we volunteer every
Really?
time, and
So
we
where's
do
the
a
money
good
going?
job.
Where's the money
You
going?
need to ask the fire association,
They
and
were
that's not
asked and they
tonight.
refused to respond.
We're not in charge of the
9
fire
months
association.
ago.
Do you have any other questions?
I'm asking the question.
For the trustees at this table, do you have any more questions?
It's very interesting that you don't want to answer them. Why not?
move on.
What's being hidden?
Anybody else, public participation? Go ahead.
Okay, the first thing, Linda Collins, 129 J Slope. I would like a copy of the paper that you read. I want to make sure that it's posted on Facebook and that everybody that goes to those breakfasts understands what they're supporting. Number 2, Ty made a comment on the Spencer Lake container that was close to the road and wanted to know how much time we're gonna give them to move it. Do we have an answer on that?
No, he said
I'm
he's
gonna
gonna
work
on
with
it.
Sherry and we'll get that addressed.
Okay, so that leads me to the question that I wanted to address in the beginning was when we were talking about Westfield. And Justin, I think, said, we're gonna give it so much time, or give it a couple of revolutions. And Ty's answer was, or we'll give them more than that. I would like you to explain what more than
It
that
could be
is.
2, 3, 4 months, it could be 6, but we'll definitely keep an eye on it. If it's a
Okay.
pain in the butt and if they're not up to snuff, you got it.
Okay, and then we will keep track of the money that it has cost the township.
Oh, yeah, we will keep track.
Okay.
Yep. Mhm.
That's my questions,
Yep.
thank you.
Mhm. Thank you. Anybody else? Yep, go ahead.
Jesse Young, 5060 Columbia Road. The part of about a month right now, we had 2 incidents at my girlfriend's house. First one, we had a vehicle roll over our backyard, destroyed about 85 feet of my fence, and knocked out the T-post, and that's under investigation right now. This morning, I got home from work, sunlight came through my front yard and turfed it. And I think it's probably maybe the kid's friend, because since the kid rode his car in the backyard, there's been a lot of suspicious activity go around by my house and my neighbors. I was wondering if you guys could talk to Andy Conrad about probably putting guardrail or stop signs up, has the LEDs on it, or make the intersection more brighter. Because people are going through the intersection, not stopping, slowing down or anything like that. This morning, what's her name? One of the officers, I think it was Erica, she came over and took pictures, and she said she gonna put a request in, having some officers stay at the house and watch the intersection. I was wondering if you guys can talk to the sheriff, see if one of these deputies could do the same thing on York side, because there's been multiple accidents, and a few of them almost occur with semis backing up in the intersection too. So right now, me and my girlfriend feel unsafe living there, and same thing for all four neighbors in that intersection. And I know the one across the street, he told me he's been coming to trustees meeting for a long time, telling you guys about it. Justin, I know you're new.
Yeah.
He started between 5 to 10 years ago, and they really haven't done nothing about it. So it's dangerous, and I know Lafayette's been at the intersection a lot too for accidents, and same thing for Earhart. And I'm just waiting for one day for a semi to come through and clapper somebody, be a fatal or something.
We can definitely, I mean, we appreciate you bringing it. We'll definitely take a look and see what we can get done as far as, additional controls at that intersection.
All right.
And get back to you, absolutely.
All right, I know it's not under your guys' power or anything for the semi-traffic. I was wondering if you guys could talk to Andy or somewhere from the state to put the semis back on the state route. Because the reason why they're coming down Smith Road in Columbia, because of the way station by the Career Center, which that's not in service anymore. And that's causing like a lot of damage to the road and everything else. And if you guys want to, you guys are more than welcome to sit in our driveway. You can watch all the idiots doing burnouts, reckless driving, and just now slowing down.
Lieutenant Markham will get some additional resources out there as well.
Right, I saw the email this morning for the extra patrol that you're referring to from Officer Anderson.
Correct. Yeah, she came over twice already, probably within a month. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Costello, 5525 Wagon Trail. I sit on a nonprofit board here in Medina County that has nothing to do with Lafayette Township Fire Department, and I was wondering who I talk to and what I need to do to apply to be able to have our annual fundraiser here in our monthly meeting here. The Fire Association has 3 all-day pancake breakfasts here from 8 in the morning until 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and at least one night at the races, and a monthly meeting every month. And I would love the opportunity to be able to have our annual fundraiser here at Lafayette Township Fire Department. It's a great facility. I helped build it several years ago. And just wondering if you guys could tell me the process and who I can talk to, what paperwork I can fill out to be able to use this facility for our monthly meetings and our annual fundraiser. It's only one day a year. So, I'm saving you 3 days a year on fundraisers, but who do I need to talk to be able to do that?
You're talking to the 3 right here. Go ahead, keep going.
What's the process? No, just tell me, who do I
Well-
talk to? How do I reserve this facility for our monthly meeting?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Mike. Let me,
Yeah.
let me interject here.
Okay.
We've never had anyone ever request it. You're the first.
The Fire Association does.
The Fire Association is the fire department in a sense. They
Oh,
are
that's
the
not
same
what was said
people.
earlier tonight.
They're the same people who work here are part of the Fire Association. So,
Well, that's not
yeah,
what
we've
you
never
guys
had,
said earlier.
we've never had anyone ask. So if you're asking, then we'll definitely have to figure that out.
Yeah, please do. And let me know. You have my email.
Yep,
Thank you.
yep. Anybody else?
Yeah. David Creedman, 7182 Hunter Drive. I haven't gotten but about 3 hours of sleep in the last evening. of our friend who lives next door, which I'm sure we're gonna address here soon, who has been pounding on things all through the evening, revving motors, blasting bass at 6 a.m., because he's trying to entice me to do something to him. He has put crates on our property line, this big, pallets, this high, up underneath my trees. I invite you all to take a ride by. My house is the one next to it. I really think everybody in this room needs to take a ride by my house tonight, literally, and see what's been going on there for the last 4 years. There's another lady in this room who's trying to sell her house. One of the reasons she moved was because of this problem, and she can't sell her house. All right, the law, I just need to know, is he breaking the law by running a business next to my home? I need to know, I need somebody to answer that for me. Is he breaking the law? When he's burning plastic in his backyard, is he breaking the law? The EPA says he is. Why is he not arrested for doing this stuff? I'm getting ready to get a lawsuit myself against him for harassment. All right, I've just had enough. I want the crap cleaned up. That's all I want. And I want him to keep on his own side of the damn fence. And if you guys could do something about making sure where that property line is, I can assure you he's infringing on mine right now. And I'm doing everything I can to be calm and cool about this. I have nothing else to say, but something's gotta happen over there soon. Somebody's gotta, you say you want a cop on the street? Put a cop on my street for the night. I've seen them over there. I go over and talk to them. They were walking around BSing with them the other day over there. But it doesn't change shit. Now I have 2 dumpsters. Now when I get up, look off my porch, I have pallets this high underneath my trees. Really, somebody's got to see this. I mean, is there anybody here from the Gazette? Really, seriously, I would love for you guys to come down and take some pictures. I mean, it's overkill stupidity, and something has to happen about it. I mean, something's got to happen with this guy. I'm not even going to bring up anything allegedly he's done. It's obviously he doesn't work for a living. He's living in a $250,000 house and he's got a new car every day of the week. Is he a criminal? I don't know. He's banging on stuff at 4 o'clock in the morning when I'm trying to sleep. I go to work during the day. That's why I have a beef with it. And it's just unbelievable that I live in a township where it can get to that. And I've been crying for 4 years about this. But now it's a freaking mess. And now the towing companies are afraid of him? I got a towing company for you guys, Kuffner Towing. I know them real well. Bunch of hillbillies from Cleveland. They'll come down there and take care of the freaking problem. I mean, people really are that afraid of this guy. Is he that threatening? I'm not afraid of him. I'm afraid of what the law will do to me.
We have that piece of it addressed.
Right. I just want everybody, take a ride down Hunter Drive. If you're not familiar with where it is, just go right up down Lake Road here to Chippewa, make a right, and go, there's a little oval off. Take a ride up, start on the first one, and drive up around and look at this guy's house. And look what I have to live next to. I think everybody in this room should do it. And then come to next month's meeting and tell me I'm freaking wrong. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
It's kind of on an agenda item a little bit later in the night.
That's okay.
So my name is Jeremy Craig, 3859 Sharon Copley Road. It's in regards to Grovewood Lane. So I have, and as I just want to take an opportunity to explain what I think Andy's been in correspondence with you guys.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to take an opportunity to kind of explain the scenario and then answer any questions potentially.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Jeremy Craig.
Jeremy Craig?
Yes, sir. So we are developing a property in Montville Township that is on the corner of Route 3 and 162. And previously there was the Medina Area Transportation Task Force adopted a plan that had a road connection from the roundabout on Route 3 all the way to Grovewood. Last year in May, the commissioners adopted an amendment that eliminated that connection and then put in an ad that says, address needed connection or permanent turnaround at the end of Grovewood Lane in Lafayette Township as part of any development of the subject property. So consequently, I am the developer then, so I'm trying to solve the problem. So what I did is I put together in your booklet there, you see the site of the property. In the northwest corner, there's a little out parcel that's owned by the Medina County Parks.
Okay.
So the second page shows the development plan, and the third page shows kind of a blow-up of what Grovewood has. So I believe Grovewood was developed a little over 20 years ago. And there is a temp turnaround that's currently kind of in the front yard of that last house on the left. And my understanding is that's what the county is hoping for us to remove and do something at the end. So what we've looked at is, he said, okay, the next page shows if we did a full cul-de-sac per the engineer standards, you can see on that drawing how the right-of-way goes through the corner of the garage of the people on the north, on the south it takes up the whole front yard, and then the cul-de-sac would obviously be paved over their driveways, right? So it's not an ideal situation.
And the reason we can't go, I don't know, maybe you're getting to it, but the reason we can't go further
east?
Yeah.
That was my question as well.
Yeah, so right off the end of that where the guardrail is, there's about a 14-foot drop down to the creek. So, and I've been discussing with the Park District now since I think it was October. We've been trying to figure out solutions and whatnot. They're very sensitive to that area. There's, I forget the name of that, McCabe Creek, headwaters in McCabe Creek, so they're very sensitive, don't want anything there. That's why they were opposed to the thoroughfare plan. Consequently, if we try to push a cul-de-sac that way, by the time you build it up 15 feet, we would basically
defeat the purpose.
Correct. So that's why it doesn't go that way. So then we looked at options. So the next one, I overlaid it on Google Maps. So this one, what I showed is how a full-size cul-de-sac would fit. The next one shows a 35-foot radius cul-de-sac, which what we did is I have Nils Johnson here from Cunningham Associates. I'm skipping a page, but I'll come back to that other page. But what Nils did was took a look at all your fire equipment that you have and put it into the design software for the turn radius to see if, you know, your largest truck is engine number 2, which is just under 35 feet, so he plugged in the 35-foot. It can do the turn radius on that cul-de-sac size. So back to the page before it, we also looked at just modifying or doing another T turnaround similar to what's in that front yard, but moving it down. In order to do that, it goes outside of the right-of-way, so it's back to the parks. So I had the conversation with Epping at the parks. He does not want to do a T turnaround because he feels like because there's a trailhead there that he'll end up with cars parked on that temp turnaround, which makes sense. I understand his concern. So again, I'm back to kind of trying to find a solution. I'm willing to do whatever we can. We're just limited because we don't own any property in Lafayette Township, so we're trying to work within the right-of-way and or with the park. So the park, we met with Andy Conrad and Nate together 2 weeks ago, and the park agreed that if we do a cul-de-sac, that additional 5 feet or 10 feet of right-of-way in the park, that if I do a trail connection for them, that they would grant the right-of-way for that area. So, and Andy's comment back was, okay, it's a substandard cul-de-sac, but let me check with the township. So really, I'm here more, not necessarily for an answer, but to make sure you understand the situation and then answer any questions you might have. And I realize it's public comment, so
Chief, I know I forwarded everything to you. You want to share your?
Yeah, I mean, a 35-foot is perfectly fine. We get I've got the documents.
Okay.
I believe I have the same documents you have. But it's better than what we have now there, so.
Okay. What Mr. Conrad explained to me is he wanted to check with the township, number one, and then he's going to check with the commissioner. So actually, from the standpoint, I know several of the residents were at the Montville meeting that I had and very concerned about that. Our plan currently has a great distance separation from.
So my husband called me earlier today, he's working at the fire station.
So I think it's a good plan. I think just, I'm trying to figure out the details of the thoroughfare, so.
Jeremy, just a quick question before you sit down. I know you said that Nate said if we did one of the Ts, you know, if you will, the turnaround Ts, would kind of promote parking, but I'm not sure it'd be much different if it were in a cul-de-sac. I mean, if they're like, hey, we can get on the trail from here, let's go park down here. I mean, we're just gonna have to put up some signs, no parking.
Yeah, that's what I suggested. Either way, I was like, we could put up signs. He just felt like the cul-de-sac would be less conducive to it. I don't know. Like I told them, I'm willing to go either way. Help, it's an obligation of part of the plan. I just am trying to find a solution I think that can work.
Now, are we right at the edge? I'm sorry, Chris, if I cut you off. I mean, how close are we to that ridge? I mean, can we get 10, 20 feet? I mean, where are you at?
I think it's like, here's a little bigger plan.
No, you're fine. Oh, I mean, it's right after the barrier, huh?
Yeah, so and actually, Mills and I were talking about this evening before the meeting, because it actually kind of clips the corner of the circle. We'll actually look to keep the arc going, remove this and relocate a barrier on the edge, but you can see the creek is right at the bottom.
That's what I was gonna ask. Are you going to extend the radius on the east side of that guardrail? Or is it literally gonna be a short cul-de-sac with a straight edge on one side?
No, so this has been, we've been working on this design all day. So when I saw it, I was like, okay, it's good enough for the meeting. But he has the sketch actually over here where we continue the arc, because I think Andy's gonna want that. And then this plan also shows just in terms of the sidewalk and the connections, because we still want to keep the pedestrian access to the trailhead that's there, so that's shown on there as well.
Township Street right now.
Yeah. And, I mean, the only thing that I would add is just from having talked to the residents that are back there, I think they're just ecstatic that the throughfare plan is not there anymore, and anything that adds some level of permanency to it, so that, you know, because it's gonna be natural, right? Like, it's been talked about as being a through street, so they're always gonna fear that happening, and, you know, for a pretty quiet little development, for that to become a cut through would be a pain, so if Chief doesn't see any issues with a smaller cul-de-sac, I don't know why, I don't think I had no input as far as stopping it from happening.
But if it's a township street, road, and we require per zoning to have it built to county standards, is a shortened cul-de-sac within a county standard?
Well, no, they'd probably need
would they have to get a
for variance
from
for
The county
for
would
the
have to
road?
variance.
The county would be the one that would be issuing the variance, because it's not,
Nels, you ever done that before?
That would be the county engineer.
yeah, the county engineer would be the one that would sign off. We would basically, because we don't do anything with permitting like the roads. I think what you're talking about is the scenario where somebody's doing a development and then transferring a road to us. This is already existing,
Right.
so, I guess the only thing that I would say is, you know, the cul-de-sac versus the turnaround probably make life easier on the service department. Plowing.
Say that again?
Probably makes,
No,
the cul-de-sac probably makes life easier on the service department when they're plowing back there than having to, you know.
Without a doubt.
Well, my issue is, we're just gonna push the snow right over that guardrail.
That's where it goes.
I mean,
Goes
we're
in the
just
water.
shoving her down.
I mean, I think that's what currently is happening.
Yeah, I'm
when
sure.
that street gets plowed.
No, I would agree with that as well. I'm just a little nervous, I mean, if we get a 35-foot fire truck in here, then the road department can plow it.
Right.
Yeah, because, I mean, Chief, if you're back there now, you're just backing out anyway, so.
We had a fire back there.
This doesn't make it any worse.
Back every engine back out of that, all the way back. We've done that before. It's not
I know.
It's not a huge issue.
Thank you.
Thank you. Probably knock that one off the agenda too, huh?
Well, I guess the only other thing maybe
Well, we-
is if we want to make a decision on responding to Andy.
Yeah, we have
But-
to do that, yeah. Yeah. So. Well, let's just see if anybody else has something to say, and then we can jump back on it. But yeah, we definitely need to finish that, yeah. Thank you, Jeremy. Anybody else, public comment? Okay, correspondence, the township newsletter. We got an email, I don't know, a week or so ago. Resident was wondering about the newsletters, when they were gonna be sent out. They didn't want to spend $8,000 a year. They wanted everything just emailed. And I did respond back and told what Kristen's idea was about putting advertisements in. So Kristen, I'm gonna give you the floor. Explain how you did the newsletter and how much money you saved the township.
So we actually added 4 pages, so that we were able, and it wasn't, actually, I was quite impressed that it didn't go up that much to add more pages, because it's a lot to, actually do the postage. So, and that wasn't changing with the weight of it. So, so with the extra space, we were able to get sponsors and advertisements that paid, we got, $2,750 in advertisement, sponsorships. So out of pocket, the township only paid $2,000 for this issue.
Printing and
For
mailing.
everything. Yep.
And what happened today?
I have today, I swear, I said was the busiest day I've ever had for the township. I already have 6+ people interested in the craft show that want to be vendors. Someone signed up for the pig roast already. The phone was ringing off the hook. But it was in a good way. I was very excited to see how people react to the newsletter, and we've had some really good reception from it. So people seem to be very happy with all of the information. Yes, somebody even came to get a voucher, God bless her heart. But those, you can't get those till April 15th. So, yeah, I mean, I thought it went very well, and I think we're just gonna have more of a positive outlook on fitting more advertisers, and I think it's fun to kind of shop through it too, to see who, everyone can support that has businesses in the township or near the township. So.
I would like to say thank you to all the vendors as well, or all the advertisers who did
Yeah.
purchase ads for it, to help it make it possible.
Okay, questions for Kristen? Okay, good. Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you.
Good job. The next one is Township bid out one trash company. Had a resident stop and talk to you, right, Kristen?
They called.
Called?
They called and asked.
Okay.
And they were saying how, sorry, I lost my train of thought. They were saying how a neighboring township went to one service provider for trash disposal and asked if the township would consider that, and I said I would relay the message.
Yeah, when I talked to her, just off the top of my head, Montville, Hinckley, York.
Yeah.
Thought there was another one.
I know
too.
York does, I don't know.
Anyway, there's 3 there. I mean, certainly, we can certainly look at, I know a resident had asked a couple of years back, but it was like right after COVID. They didn't want to bid on it or something like that.
Well, I don't know that Montville's happy they did it. I remember I reached out to Jeff Brandon a couple of years ago, and
he said you end up becoming a waste broker, and it's not really worth the trouble.
The other, and the only concern that I have, because I mean, in theory, it sounds great.
Yeah.
You know, reducing the traffic on the roads, the wear and tear, everything like that, but like, you know, they usually require, you're gonna have X number of people sign up, and then you run the risk of having to force people into trash that they don't want, and I think you're flirting the line of what really we have the legal authority to do. Because I mean, you know, I know York, they got a little bit of pushback because their contractor, you know, I think it's like 3 or 5% are allowed to opt out. Well, they do an opt out, but if only a certain number of people are allowed to opt out, then some people are being forced into, and I can just see that being one where for us to, I don't think we get enough people voluntarily opting in, especially as much of the township that we have that's rural. You know what I mean? Like,
Because we have
for most everybody in the developments, I mean, I'm looking around mine, I'd say the majority of my neighbors have a can out at some point during the week. And it is annoying that, you know, there's a trash truck in the development nearly every day because of the different routes. But at the same time, you know, if we're sitting there telling people, well, you have to have trash service, if they have other, you know, if they prefer to dispose of it at the recycling center themselves or what, I think that's where you potentially run into issue. But to look into it,
We'd have to do a study of some sort.
Yeah.
And that's gonna come at a cost.
I get the idea of having one trash can, you know, one day a
Right.
week. It'd be nice, especially in the subdivisions, but residents like their choices too.
they like their choices, and then, like I said, I mean, I would imagine most of them are gonna want a certain threshold, you know, to offer you the
Right.
contract pricing.
Right.
And then what do you do if
You don't get
not that many people wanna sign up? Are you forcing people in, or you accepting a higher price?
Mhm. You want me to call around and just get some questions, answers, and?
I reached back out to Mr. Brandon, I haven't heard back yet, but.
Oh, you
know,
have already, okay.
I'll
Okay.
email a response to you.
And
guys.
if you don't,
We
I mean, I think
discuss
maybe
it.
that's the starting point, is find out.
Here's
I
the-
would imagine they're all gonna have a threshold, that they're gonna say, it's gotta be 80%, 90%, whatever it is. But maybe that's the place to start, because if somebody's willing to do a low enough threshold, then I think it's something that you start to maybe has a little more viability. But if they want 90% of the township to do it,
I want to say it was pretty high, if I remember
Right.
correctly. Yeah.
And that's a lot.
right,
And back then, we got a lot of people coming in, calling in saying, you know, don't do this, you know, like, I like to take my trash to the.
I've got a neighbor that doesn't need that much, and she's happier taking hers, you know,
Right.
once a month and tossing it, you know, down to the recycling center, not paying the monthly fee. So,
But no burning.
right.
No, no burning. All right, well, I guess Grovewood's next, because Andy emailed us, so. We have any other questions for Nels or Jeremy, since they're both here? Or you guys okay with that 35-foot substandard cul-de-sac?
I think given the alternatives,
Yeah, Chief, do you have any concerns at all about it? That would be my
No.
biggest.
and you talked to Medina as well, right?
There's a cul-de-sac right next door on the next road over. There's smaller cul-de-sacs that we have to maneuver in the city, it's not a big deal.
Right.
Well, that cul-de-sac on the road is a standard cul-de-sac on the next road over.
Is that Ivan?
The one to the north?
Yeah.
Yeah, Ivandale.
I would imagine that
That's
that's a
right.
standard cul-de-sac with an island in the middle, I believe.
But you look at Chippewa Lake and our fire trucks,
Yeah.
and I don't wanna take frontage away from, just because we wanna get a fire truck in. It's not a,
Right.
not a big issue.
I feel like as much as I wish it
Right.
could be a
Better
regular size
option.
one, I think this is still better than what we have now, and it's a safer alternative.
Okay, if we're good with it, I can just let Andy know that we're good with it, and,
Do we need to make a motion and vote on it officially?
yeah, why don't we do that? I'll move to approve the plan for a 35-foot cul-de-sac at the end of Grovewood. So the
I'll second.
developer can, well, the developer's taking full responsibility in putting it in and all of that, but we're just approving the size.
Right. And I'll
Okay.
approve, or
You'll
I'll
second. All right, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign. Okay, so we'll get that rolling for you, Jeremy. Okay, unresolved business, Hunter Drive update.
You guys all saw the email today from the prosecutor's office, so we were waiting on a couple of kind of clarifications on what we can do. Essentially, the goal is to be able to go in, clean everything out that we're legally allowed to remove from the property in one fell swoop. And then see where it goes from there. Unfortunately, I mean, obviously, it'll be just like Polka Road. Once we get the final bill, we assess it to the property owner. Hopefully, that's the deterrent, but you would think that the fact that, you know, we've been taking the steps that we have would slow things down, and if anything, it's probably picked up. We have a salvage company that'll do the vehicles. Because of the amount of debris, some of the other kind of normal people that we would use were a little bit hesitant because of the scope of the work. And then there were a number of them that, you know, didn't want to deal with the potential backlash. But Foot Excavating, who did the Egypt Road for us, feels that they've got everything that they need equipment-wise, crew-wise to go in and do all that. Ballpark figure, 15 to 25. I mean, I know it's a big range, but
You're talking
hard
about,
to say
that's
how much.
after the salvage people leave, they come in?
They'll be there at the same time
Oh,
with
at
the
the same
salvage
time.
people. Country View over on Chatham Road in Spencer will handle all of the vehicle stuff. So any new vehicles that are junk that we haven't gone through the legal process of, we can remove from the property. They can store there until we go through the legal process to dispose of them. But we can take them off the property, which is the key, because again, I mean, I don't know, we don't have a lot of controls that are gonna allow us to just prevent him from re-junking the yard, but the bigger impact that we can have now, we give the neighbors some relief immediately. If we can get through the process and he sees the bill that's gonna be on his, I mean, ultimately, if he re-junks it and we clean it up, that's gonna wind up taking the property away from him. I mean, it's not a quick process, but that's the extent of what our authority is. So, given that winds up being a pass-through cost, if you guys are okay with it, I'll work on getting the dates lined up, and we'll get these guys in there to get it done. I think, based on how wet it is right now and how much lead time we need to give everybody to have, you know, City PD there, probably looking at either the week before or the week after Easter.
Have both of those companies been notified that they would be on the site concurrently? They're both.
They're both fine with that, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. As a matter of fact.
I would guess that would be
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be hindered by another company if I was.
No, I think based on the scope of the work that they're going to be doing, they'll be able to stay out of each other's way. And then also, you know, the fact that when we were out there, there were vehicles, but there's a number of items and vehicles and things that have appeared since then. And who knows how many more show up between now and when we get out there. Go ahead.
Will they be removing the stuff that's, as far as I know, in any township or, I mean, I grew up in Independence, okay? Your backyard's here, you got a fence around it or whatever. Let's say you didn't have a fence. You keep your stuff X amount of feet away from your neighbor's property line. It's just etiquette, basically, unless it's in the back of the yard,
Right,
you know.
but that's out the window in this
This
situation.
guy has infringed upon my property. He's built a building off of my fence, okay? I mean, this stuff needs to go when that happens.
Well,
It needs to be dismantled and
And
gone.
Sherry and I talked about that. Once
Okay.
we get some cleanup, so you can get a
Right.
better assessment of the property, then we can look at if there are any zoning infractions
Oh,
or
God,
violations
there's a million.
right, but this will be step one. And then, like I said, I don't know what the exact cost will wind up being, but I would expect it's probably gonna be, you know, for both entities, probably in that 25 grand. And we put it on the tax, bill. No, total. Because the salvage company, they get some value out of being able to salvage the vehicle and do that. So they're just into it for their cost of removal, which is why it'll be good that, you know, the excavating company's there, because he can bring in some of his heavier equipment and potentially help load up some of these trucks, because some of these vehicles are in pretty bad shape. The issue is we can only remove things that we can deem junk vehicles, which is why the camper in the back potentially becomes an issue. And, you know, we can remove them. I mean, we can remove everything. The error that we have is if we take something that we weren't supposed to take, I mean, it ultimately could be liability on the township, so.
You gotta watch him too, he'll be looking for you to do something like
Right.
that.
Wow. I remember drone footage that Sherry showed from.
Yeah.
I think he's got a bunch of, I don't know if they were
Lawn
riding mower hoods.
riding mower decks, it looks like. The
Yeah.
decks from the
Now
riding mowers,
we're taking those out as well.
taking
Yeah,
everything,
okay.
everything that we can declare like junk. The unfortunate thing is like I said, it sounds like
He's just moved it up in the front yard.
the
next to the house.
camper we can't take, and we can't take, he had one, does he have another roll-off dumpster now?
I don't know where he's getting these things.
Is there
For somebody
two,
who
is there
doesn't
two
work,
now?
He's got plenty of money.
Does he have two on there now, though?
Yeah, there's two, there's a big giant roll-off in the
Because
middle.
I don't think we,
It's getting
because
old.
originally I was gonna say we take those, just get it all out of there, but the prosecutor's office said that we can't touch those.
Is it worth discussing anything in particular right now that we may or may,
Well, I
should
guess-
we deem it,
We've already done all the declaration that we need to do there. I guess the biggest thing is, as a board, we just need to decide, like, do we want to play it ultra conservative and only take the stuff that we're absolutely 100% clear on, or do we want to take it, you know, take as much junk as, you know, they deem junk when they're there, and if we overstep a little bit, so be it.
you say
I don't think, if you don't take it all, he'll just move it to another spot and start a bigger wall. Like they said, he's got a wall next to my property, which, you know, I'm getting used to it, except for the F the police sign that's pointed at my house. You know, that I'd like to throw over the damn fence, but you'd think the cops would do that when they were over there, but no.
And then
He's allowed to do that, but if I put up the thing that says, fuck you, I'm instigating a problem.
So, I mean, that, and then probably the only other piece is, you know, Foot asked, you know, instead of, it may wind up being more than a one-day thing. If need be, can they move their equipment from Hunter Drive and store it maybe like at the service building?
Oh, I
You
wouldn't
know,
have a problem
and
with that.
Their own
their
equipment.
equipment, so that it's not just sitting in his front
Oh,
yard.
yeah, no.
Right.
Where are they moving from, do you know?
Well, they're over right on the edge of, like Wadsworth, Rittman.
So, yeah, I wouldn't
that
have
side
a
of it.
problem with them
But yeah,
parking their equipment at the service garage.
but if, I just wanted to make sure, you know, like I said, now that we've got final guidance from the prosecutor's office on that part of it, you know, where do you guys sit on how aggressive we want to get on what we take off that property?
I'd like to get as much as we possibly can, but that's why I'm kind of bringing up tonight, mower decks. Are they garbage? Or
Yes.
do they have value because they're scrap? You know what I mean? I would say they're garbage. They might have value, but they're still garbage, right?
I agree, and that's why I say, like, my take on it would be, you know, let's get it all, and then, you know, deal with the fallout
Yeah.
if we have to.
I would concur.
I think the rest of the township will understand that
I think this
decision.
gentleman would be happy too. The more we get, the merrier, right?
Right. Okay. Then we'll work on doing that, and I will be in touch once we have a more firm timeline. So,
Right, pallets, those are on your property, right?
There, put it this way, the tree line's the property. So if you put a bunch of pallets under a pine tree, what do? Is it a fire hazard or not? Or is it just me? You know, put a bunch of wood under a bunch of half-dead pine trees, you know?
I mean, are pallets?
Pallets, stacked
Rubbish,
up.
is that?
8 feet in the air, 10 feet in the air.
Snakes,
Mhm.
mice, rats.
performance.
We've had the EPA there over the air quality thing, but maybe they should take a look at the ground quality of where he's had all these cars parked right next to
And
the
I think
house.
that'll be key, right, is documenting when we're out there. We'll get pictures before we start the process so that there's no questions about what we do. We'll document what we're doing throughout the day. We'll take pictures, you know, when we leave each night while we're out, if it winds up being multiple day. And then we just go from there. And it is what it is.
I agree.
All right.
Yep. Lieutenant gonna need a couple people out
Yeah.
there.
You're good with that, right, Lieutenant?
Yes.
All right. We'll get it done.
Okay, website update. Any new news on,
We, at the last meeting, we talked about, you know, moving forward. It was 4 to 6 week design window, so I'll follow back up with them here, you know, and see where we're at. But we should have kind of the shell of everything that we can start playing with here pretty soon. And then, you know, I already talked to Kristen about, you know, getting in there and playing around with like how we get everything done. So that hopefully by this fall, we'll be able to launch the new website and we'll just redirect the old one to the new one until everybody gets up and running. And then down the road, we can make a decision on what we want to do with the other domain. And then I guess the other thing to discuss, or at least to think about, is once we are done there, you know, do we want to redo the email addresses and that kind of stuff, you know? You won't have to, as long as because we're good with the .com domain for, I think, at least another 1.5 to 2 years. We got that pushed out, the deadline for getting it transferred, so it's not like an emergency situation on that.
But I mean,
So as
but
long-
when it does sunset on .com, we will.
Yeah, then you would want to. Plus, I mean, we went through the process of getting it, we might as well switch it eventually. It's just a matter of, you know, when do we want to do that, right? So,
Well, we will business cards, so you might want to do it all at once.
right.
okay. Swear I had something else. Oh, that was. Yeah. Any thoughts on that? Well, I guess I forgot a correspondence, sorry. The one person that reached out about the Hometown Heroes banner, is that something we want to try to get questions asked? I mean, it's gonna cost the township some money. I'm not even sure where we would.
Right.
I mean, I've seen like the City of Stowe, they got them
Right.
everywhere, which is super
You have the
cool, but
downtown
they got
area,
lights
yeah.
poles. I mean, we have Ohio Edison poles. I'm not even sure of the legality of that, but, I mean, I like the concept, but, I mean, do you guys want me to ask questions and come back, or do you think it's even feasible?
I mean, I would love to honor the veterans, but I don't know how we would do it either. We don't, our town center is,
Pretty limited.
yeah.
What's that?
I could do something in the newsletter.
Oh, absolutely, but this was a separate.
I know,
Yeah.
but he was just saying another
Oh,
option.
we can find other ways to do that, absolutely.
Yeah, okay, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. All right. Township Health Plan Renewal. All right. So Ohio insurance, I'll just do a little brief and then we can start discussing, but, so beginning of March, Frank Harmon had reached out and was talking about, he's not sure how much more the healthcare is gonna be. He was thinking 2 digits, 10%, 12%, whatever. So that was making me nervous. And then he came back with Anthem at 6.9%, which is better than 10%, but I wasn't too happy about it. So then he went back and negotiated again and came up with a 3.62% increase from last year. Total plan for the premiums, 3.62%, which comes up to about $315 a month for the township. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say, I think everyone who's taken healthcare from, like single, should contribute another $25 out of their paycheck a month. Family should contribute another $50, and then it only costs the township like $40 or something less than that a month, just to try to offset that increase, although it's a great increase. I know the CERB did a study in 2024 and showed that our plan, which is a smaller plan, we don't have that many employees, the State Employment Relations Board showed that our particular plan was 30% less than the state average, which is great, but I think we're gonna be in our best, plan category-wise with that 3.62. That would be my first initial thought. Pass it down to you guys to talk about more, get some different ideas.
Yeah, I got a couple of places I could start on this one. I don't know what makes it easiest for the conversation. Let's, maybe I'll back up, because I know we've had a couple of conversations about it in here, and I was the one that kind of brought up the questions about the legality of it, and, you know, kind of along the lines of what Ty just mentioned too, with kind of changing the contributions. One of the things that kind of started me asking the questions about the insurance plans was the fact that, you know, the Ohio Revised Code and the OAG opinions are very clear that we can't alter compensation during term. And they always referred to changes in healthcare costs, premiums, and benefits, you know, that are given to the elected officials as compensation, which is why I had originally asked the question about, well, our compensation is set by the Ohio Revised Code, why wouldn't that be part of it? That's where the original question came of, you know, is it legal to add insurance on top of our compensation? So the prosecutor's office did give us an opinion.
Well,
they got back to us.
Right, no, but if we want to talk about it, we need to make a motion to approve that we're okay with releasing that information. I'll make a motion that we release the opinion from our prosecutor's office to share this information.
Okay, I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
And that is basically waiving on this topic.
Waiving on this topic
attorney-client
only,
privilege.
yeah,
Okay.
but just
Okay, thank
just
you.
plain and
So-
safe.
That's
Go ahead,
fine.
Justin, go ahead, sir.
So what they came back with was a solid explanation. I have no issue with what they explained. But where they came back is that since the Ohio Revised Code authorizes health insurance to be provided for the township, that the elected officials can take part in it as well, and there is no there's no limitation placed in that section. There is no legal limit to how much money we are allowed to spend on healthcare plans for ourselves, for the elected, or for the employees. The only limit is the budget of the township. So, you know, the idea that, you know, it's legal, you know, again, we could spend $1 million. We could spend the entire budget on healthcare for ourselves, and it would be legal. So I think we would all agree that that would be excessive. So the question then becomes, at what point do we go from it's legal to it's inappropriate? So one of the things that I did, and I'll share these out with you guys. I looked at every township in Medina County, and I have everybody except for one who was willing to share the information. There is one township that has not. And what you can see on here, I broke them down because obviously townships' budgets are different. And that's how our compensation is calculated, is based off of what the budget is. So for example, you have Brunswick Hills, Hinckley, Medina, and Montville are the four larger townships, $10 million plus in budget. The trustees make more, the fiscal officer makes more, that's just the way that's spelled out. And I went through and, figured out what they pay in premiums for their elected officials. This is just elected officials. Everybody's plan's a little bit different, whether they use HSAs, HRAs, how much they contribute, anywhere from townships that contribute nothing to their, the taxpayer picks up 100% of the coverage, to some townships, 15% is what the employees, including the elected officials, contribute. There are other townships that don't offer any benefits for anybody. There's actually one that offers employee only. So if an elected official or an employee of the township wants health coverage, the township will cover it, but if they want to add a dependent, then they cover it. So I just thought it was a good idea because, I was definitely critical of our plan, so I wanted to get a good understanding of where it's at. And by far, not the most egregious or most generous plan in the township or in the county. But I do think it highlights the fact that, the only check on what we're going to spend on these is our conscience and the voters, when it's time to elect us. So I just wanted you guys to have this information. Now, to the renewal piece, I guess my question would be, we sat here at the last meeting and we put the requirement in that we complete Form Fire so that we could do a competitive market shop, and only 3 of the 6 people covered on our plan completed Form Fire. So since we made that a stipulation for coverage, does that mean that 3 people that didn't complete Form Fire aren't going to be eligible for coverage moving forward?
No, we require the employees to fill out Form Fire.
Are we not employees?
No, we're not considered employees. I don't think we could require one another.
So it defeats the
We may
whole...
be able to, but...
Okay, so just so we're clear though, we did Form Fire. We said we were going to do Form Fire so we could get a competitive shop. We had the employees do it, and then none of the elected officials filled it out. So we can't
I
get
went
competitive
out
shop.
and asked the service department before that meeting, and they were all okay with it. And
Okay, so, but I just want to make sure, clear for the record, like, we, having had them do that was pointless because the elected officials chose not to do it.
It did not come to any fruition, correct?
Form Fire is, just so everyone understands, it does history, it does medical history, very sensitive information, not trying to make that the point, of the people that would be on the plan. But Form Fire doesn't, it's not one singular motion. It could go back another direction as well. So if the broker that goes and tries to get new bids for your coverage, it could actually make your coverage go higher in some aspects.
So
that's,
why did we require our employees if it was going to be a pointless effort? Because we
no,
didn't-
I'm just saying it could go either way. I'm just trying to explain how Form Fire works. It could get you a better rate, or it could maybe not get you a better rate, get you a higher rate. So just explaining it. Just so people understand it. I've never heard of Form Fire until this government job. I've never had a company that's ever asked for that, ever. Chris, or I'm sorry, Justin, if you were still going, sorry.
Well, no, I mean, Barb brought up a lot of great points. Obviously, we've had this conversation a number of times, so I've made my opinion on it clear. I think that the way our plan is currently designed, it is incentivizing the wrong things. I'm not criticizing anybody that elects to take the coverage. People are going to make a decision that is in their best personal financial interest most of the time. So we have a plan that encourages everybody that's eligible for it to take it, including people that have eligible coverage elsewhere. I choose to decline it because the township would be paying significantly more for my policy now, or for the policy through the township, than a plan that I'm very happy with. So, but what I'm getting at is, but I could save myself several $100s a month by forcing that onto the taxpayer. So the question becomes, how do we design, or how do we put a plan together that eliminates that? You know, we have employees who put their spouses on it because their spouse can get it for free here, where they'd have to pay for it through their other employer. Now, I don't know a private employer out there. I've never worked for a private employer that didn't require a coordination of benefits, so that if a spouse or another dependent had access to insurance elsewhere, they didn't have to look at doing that. I've got a lot of thoughts on how we can do that. One of the things, and again, I like the idea behind increasing the contribution rates. The one hesitation to that is, I think if you, having gone through as much of the conversation with the prosecutors as I have over that, I don't think you can legally increase what you're contributing in the middle of your term either. You can't raise the price. Now, you could opt to accept it, yes, but you can't change, this would be a change in compensation, and you can't change it up or down. We can make changes that affect the next term. So one of the things that I think I would like to see done is you can do cash in lieu of benefits. It's going to be real deep in the weeds here, but cash in lieu of benefits allows an eligible employee to take 25% of the cost of the plan in cash and then secure insurance elsewhere. So, you know, instead of having a couple, let's say one person works here, you know, the spouse works, you know, at another business. You know, they could get a group plan through the spouses, but it's going to cost them $500 a month. But here it's going to cost them $50 a month. So of course they're going to take this one. But now they'd have the option to potentially take 25% of the cost of the plan for here in cash, saving the township 75% of the cost of the premium, and then they would be able to buy their spouse's plan for, you know, basically no money out of their pocket because the township's covering it through their plan. If we did something like that, it wouldn't be able to affect any of the three of us up here or Laura, I don't think, but definitely not the three of us until our next terms. But it would be something that I think could reduce the financial incentive to push everybody onto the township's plan and still not cost anybody up here extra money. But you know, I'm frustrated with the whole process. So I mean, you guys, I don't know what you guys want to do, but those are my thoughts on things.
Chris? So you're looking to make that effective January 1st, then is what you're saying?
Well, with our renewal in May, it's very difficult. But I mean, ultimately, again, it's something that I think you're going to want to make sure we run any of these changes that we would make. I mean, obviously, we can do a straight renewal. Nothing stops us from doing a straight renewal because the plan's not changing and nothing's done. Anything else that we're doing with adjusting contribution rates or if we were going to put a cash in lieu of benefits program in place, none of those changes, in my understanding, are going to be eligible for anybody to take advantage of until their next term. Everybody is kind of stuck with what we currently have. Now, that doesn't mean you can't decline. So, I mean, the idea of you can't increase, the township can't force a higher premium on anybody, but you could definitely voluntarily pay more. I mean, nothing stops you from doing that. So, I mean, to your idea of increasing what people contribute, I mean, I think that's the minimum of what we should do is look at it. I mean, it just gets more in line, as Barb was mentioning, it gets more in line with what most people see.
So you're talking about making a whole type of, not just a policy change, but a way that we administer it, right?
Yeah, and that's probably bigger than this meeting's conversation and decision. And it's also not something, like I said, because of the way that it impacts the elected officials and our terms in office and what have you, there's nothing that says that we have to solve that problem today. But I do think it's something that needs to be addressed, because, again, we can have a difference of opinion, but like I said, to hide behind the it's legal, we just discussed it. I mean, it would be legal for us to hire a private physician to sit down at the town hall and offer, but I mean, we would have legal justification to spend an exorbitant amount of money. Not saying anybody would do that, but that highlights the fact that there is a point where it just becomes unconscionable. Where that point is gonna be different for everybody. You know, to me, you know, I think as a whole, across the board, not just the people in this room, so please, I'm not trying to make it a personal attack. I think the elected officials in the state of Ohio abuse this ability to give themselves Cadillac healthcare plans. Not even, I mean, you see you can look at the paper I gave you. Ours isn't even close to some of the ones that are out there.
Yep.
There are townships that spend in excess of $200,000 a year for 4 people to have healthcare. I mean, it's ridiculous. The countywide, for 40 elected officials, countywide, 40 elected officials, over $1 million a year in healthcare premiums. I mean, that's $1 million of money that, and again, most of this is outside of our control. So that's not what I'm not trying to, but it's the thought process and the concept. That's abuse of the taxpayers. So I would just like us to do something to get more in line with what I think is appropriate. Ours is definitely not the most egregious, but I think we can do better, is all I'm saying.
And January 1st would be the timeline for implementing that.
Well, like I said, we'd have to run a bunch, like,
Yeah.
whatever we decided we wanted to do with changing those, we'd have to double check and say, okay, I would definitely, whatever we come up with, present it to the prosecutor's office to have them say, okay, if you're gonna do these changes, it can affect this office at this date, because like I said, I do believe these changes would potentially be an interim increase, so we're gonna be frozen with what we currently have for our terms, but that's the only way to ever change the plan. Otherwise, you know, everybody just does the whole, well, that's what's always been done, so we're just not gonna look at it. And I think we need to do more, that's all. I'll let you guys do what you want on the renewal. Like I said, I don't.
Unfortunately, right
I
now,
would have liked to have done a.
The renewal is not bad. It's a pretty small increase in premium.
But we don't know, because we didn't, between not doing Form Fire and our broker being less than excited about doing the extra work. Do I think he got us a good renewal with Anthem? Absolutely. But there's no way to know whether it's the best. And even if he's 100% confident that that's the best one, we owe it to the people that pay the bill to do the work and to go and to do the due diligence, and I just don't think we did. You know?
No, I'm sorry, I thought you had more.
No, I mean, a 3.62 is in line. Did you happen to see the I think it was the OTA email that came out?
Yeah.
It was in addition to this one, and then.
Like I said, it's not about sitting here saying, I know that
Right.
that plan isn't good. But I know, you know, we've all had conversations. We've had a broker that's been beating down our door that lives in the township that wants to do the work to make sure that it's the best. And we currently have a broker that, it's not about bashing him, but like, you know, he's a big broker. He services a lot of townships. Most are just okay with signing off on the renewal, and maybe it is the right thing, but, you know, Ty's made a big point about the competition, and while I disagree with him on how it applies with the Westfield Bank situation, I agree with him 100% on competition's a great thing. So I guess the only input that I would have on this is, I'd like the board to consider potentially just doing a broker of record change doesn't affect the policy in any way, shape, or form, but maybe consider switching to Scott and GDK, and having him, kind of take us from here to whatever's next. But
Have you spoken with Scott recently?
not real recently, just because we'd had a number of conversations earlier this year, and I got all the information that I needed from him. And then it didn't seem like.
The only difference, I don't think that any of the providers, because I've talked with Frank and Scott about it, I don't think any of the providers would be allowed to give you the exact same rate he gives to Frank, Anthem would give to Frank, they would give to Scott. I think they have to understand things right too. Both of those guys as the agent would have the same commissions on it. So I think the only difference would boil down to, and you're right, competition's fine, is maybe one shop sets to more providers than the other.
That's exactly what I'm getting at, because I had to fight tooth and nail with, I emailed Frank, 3 or 4 times, I copied you guys on all of them, and it was, every time it was like, hey, we want to shop this. Well, you're getting the best. It's like, I get that, but we're shopping it. And it was a constant fight. And to me, that's not somebody that should be working for us. Again, it might work for other people, it might be good, but, if I, as your client, tell you that our residents want the plan shopped, and we want to be able to show the residents that we did our due diligence on it, you do it. End of story. You don't push back. That rubbed me the wrong way. So.
Yeah, I would promote, Justin and Chris, I would promote having a work session, bring Scott in, let's throw out some new ideas for a new, fresh year, see if we can't get creative, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Just to get their ideas and teach us.
Yeah, and those are only 2 people that we know.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people are gonna come in and talk about it, but I also kind of feel like if one person comes in and talks about it, whether it's Scott or somebody else, we're gonna request information in a work session. Is it possibly putting the township at a competitive disadvantage if he's out giving all his secrets in public and it's somebody else, you know what I mean? Not that there's anything wrong with trying to get that information, but would that be something that would be done at a public meeting, maybe an executive session? It doesn't do the township any good to have somebody give out, you know what I'm saying?
No, I get it. Yeah.
But that could be down the road as well.
I like the idea of freshening it up, but not so sure you can do it on this year anyway.
And you're right, we can't make changes until January 1st for them to be effective, right? We could change a health plan at the beginning of a new term. Like if we renew this tonight, we don't have to keep it through May of next year. We can change it as of.
No, it could potentially cause, far from an expert on the way that type of stuff works, but, as I understand it, no, you can change. There may be some difficulties in the process, there may be some additional costs, but those are all things that can be looked at. Because there are a lot of arguments for why a January 1st renewal would make more sense, but with where we're stuck, we might,
The much bigger townships, the counties, they get all theirs done, I think, February, March, and then the smaller plans like we're on, wait till May 1st. So that's why we get shoved out. Chris, what's your opinion on
Well, I think we're talking about 2 different things. I'm all for looking at alternatives that we can implement before January 1st. But right now, we're faced with this crossroads, and I don't think we're gonna find anything right now, so I would make a motion to renew at these rates.
Okay, do you want to do anything with any more deduction?
Well, like he said, I don't think we're allowed to do that. We can't change in term.
Well, we could force it on the employees, but I don't necessarily think that's the right way to go about it,
It's not.
But so.
And I don't either.
You made a motion
I
to renew the plan as is?
Yeah.
Or the plan in front of us?
The proposed renewal from Anthem.
With the current contribution rates of $50 per month?
Right.
For family, 25 for a single.
Correct.
Deductible stay the same at 5 and 10, fully reimbursed by the township. I'll second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Employee handbook, I just wanted to follow up. I know, I just wanted to see where the thoughts were on doing that.
You guys probably
I
have
got
a copy,
yeah.
but this is, I wanted to make sure we all have the same one. This is the one that
Yeah.
Laura used. You may get exactly the same with what you
Just
have.
murdering trees.
Don't tell Sherry. With the thought, as we discussed last time with PTO and sick time, as it turns out, per ORC, employees are we're required to give them sick time. So trying to roll sick time into PTO is not going to work. So I guess we are starting from scratch with that. My thoughts are, I didn't anticipate it to go that way. I thought I'd come here with a proposal for you guys to kind of revamp the whole PTO process, and then maybe we could take sections of this, work on them individually and hit it, over time, 1 or 2 sections at a time.
Yeah, I mean, I ran across the same thing. ORC outlines what the amount of sick time earned are, so that trying to blend it with a PTO program is probably not gonna work. But that was really, when Ty brought that up, that was really the only thing that I saw as being probably something that warranted looking at. I mean, where we're currently at, I'd say the only real change we need to make is we probably need to implement or start implementing an actual review process for, each of the employees. I don't think, the book itself is pretty well done, my take on it. It's just that we don't really have a good merit-based review system, for Rick to document the guys in his staff, for the service liaison to document Rick. Obviously, Chief's been working on one for the fire department, but we should probably have one, where the fire liaison has an annual review with Chief when we benchmark it. Same thing for, zoning and doing those things. Just
every category.
Well, plus that way, then when we do sit here and we talk about reviews at the end of the year or merit-based raises and whatnot, we actually have something to go back and look at, like, hey, we can quantify what their contribution is to the department. So my takeaway right now on it would just be, let's come up with some sort of, annual review form, and get that streamlined and then see where we're at. But I don't know, did you find anything else in the book that really screamed at you as needing a major change?
Other than one, what I think is a typo on sick pay. One reference in there where it talks about accruing a maximum of 120 days. And then, what page you on there?
10.
10. And then, upon retirement, if an employee is able to retire, they can cash in their accrued sick time for 30 cents on the dollar. But it states in there up to a maximum of 120 hours. And I think that's probably supposed to be 120 days.
Probably right.
30% of 120 hours. Is
Right.
part of
Yeah,
the work
pretty,
week,
yeah. No, I think we could probably fix that with a simple.
So yeah, that would be
Yeah.
top of page 11.
Yeah, right. Days instead of hours.
Yeah.
However, I guess maybe what I brought it up originally, and I agree with the sick time, the ORC, right? So, but you're gonna lose a lot of sick time that was earned. Anyway, we can loosen up a little bit how they can cash it in. I mean, they are earned days. Or is
What do you
it
mean?
nothing? I mean, they earn X amount of sick
Right.
time, but of course, you can't use it as a vacation day. You can't schedule it in advance.
Right.
So
you're saying, like, for the situations where they get in excess of 120 days?
yeah, then they lose it.
Mixed feelings. I mean, I guess the other way to look at it is if we don't feel like they get enough time off, then maybe we just do it with the vacation, because, they get what is it, 4 hours every pay period. They basically get a half sick day every 4 point some percentage. But either way, you know, it's basically, you know, if they've got the tenure where they're getting 3 weeks of vacation and they're getting 12 days of sick day, I mean, you're starting to get like 6 weeks off. I know sick time can't be just used as vacation, but, you know, I don't know that we want to tweak the, you know, bigger payout at the time that they leave type of thing. But if we don't feel like they're getting enough time off, I mean, maybe we look at something along the, I guess I'm just more inclined to that than potentially accumulating this big, huge. You could have a pretty big.
Well, you can't accrue more sick time than 120 days, that's capped, right? That's.
Wasn't that what you were talking about, trying to figure out how to?
Yeah, but I mean, if they go over it,
Right,
which you'll have these random people that, I mean, it happens.
Right. You're saying.
But
they
this,
won't be able to-
this reads, you just lose it, it's
Yeah.
just gone.
If you're somebody that just never gets sick and never takes any
Right.
sick days, I mean, eventually you do kind of lose out, but, you know.
Maybe we could possibly, when you get to 120 hours, you can
You're talking
cash
about, I
in
was talking about letting them cash out earlier or something like
40 hours
that.
a week of it or something, or I'm sorry, 40 days as opposed to 120?
Yeah, I don't know, is there anything in the ORC that prohibit, I mean, that says we can or can't do that? That would be the only thing, because so much of it winds up being tied to that. That would be my only question, but if you
And
wanna.
were you in agreement, we're talking, I don't know who else you talked to, but, it's paid back when they retire.
Cents on the dollar, so.
Did
I mean,
you see the?
120 days, that's,
I mean, that's a lot.
40 days, right? That's-
Yeah.
That's 6 weeks.
It's still it's a pretty nice little check
Right.
to leave.
All right, so what do you want us to do then, Chris? You're the lead. You
Well,
want us to just do like 2 articles every meeting, or you
Well, I
want
mean,
to do 3, or?
Unless we
Just to
have,
make
do you
sure.
have issues with it? I don't have the thing memorized, but like you said, there's nothing that stands out that's screaming. It
No,
needs to be.
I think, go ahead, sorry.
Other than possible, you know, we need to do something to give them an extra day off. Not a sick day. I don't know, you could consider a floating holiday.
Right.
You know, not necessarily PTO, it's not something you accrue, maybe 2 or 3 days a year that's dumped into your kitty. I mean, as it is, these guys will take
mean,
a
we-
day off between, you know,
Right.
November and Easter, so.
I haven't had anyone ask, but I mean, we have adjusted their pay in the last
Right.
couple of years, but we have never adjusted days off, so
Right.
obviously they're pretty
Why don't
happy,
you
they're
work-
pretty happy.
Why don't you work with the guys or Rick and like see if there's something, you know, in the practice of how that time off works that they would like to see done differently? And then I can work on, you know, getting some samples of, you know, kind of a performance appraisal or a performance review plan that we can look at and just kind of beef that part of it up. But I think that's probably the overhaul for the book.
Yeah.
At this point, anyway.
I think it's sensible to have a review plan for sure. My biggest fear is, you know, we've got Chief Kavanaugh and AC Holzman back there with years and years of fire and EMS experience. They obviously are qualified to review the fire department staff, right?
Oh, absolutely, and that's why I would say, like, outside of, like, probably the zoning inspector, the service director, because whoever our service director is, Rick, I would have him do the appraisals of his guys. He's the one that's managing them, working with them on a day-to-day basis, so it would be, you know, the liaison. It'd be, you know, a handful of reviews for us to be doing.
Right.
You know.
But my biggest concern would be like, you do this in the private sector, you're managing somebody, you're reviewing them. Theoretically, you are more experienced and more knowledgeable than them, right? I'm not sure any of us are more experienced and more knowledgeable of Rick, for example, when it comes to plowing, you know, equipment maintenance.
Yeah, we make the hiring and
That's
firing
true, we
decision
do.
here,
That's what
so
I
I
say,
mean,
we do need to do
we
something.
kind of have to,
Yeah.
so that's why, and maybe that's where, you know, the review that he has for his guys is more specific to the job, whereas, you know, our review for those situations or for the department heads is more on how they work with the board, you know? And that kind of stuff, the things that we need from Rick, right? Like, and Sherry and those other people, so. All right.
No.
Deerview Lane, are we good with the zoning book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I was hoping that he would stop in, but, after our last meeting, we talked about possibly looking at doing expansion of fire hydrants on Deerview Lane. So, shot in the dark, I just shot Commissioner Harrison an email. I was like, hey, this was identified, the county didn't do it before, maybe we can work together on doing something, maybe they'll foot the bill. As luck has it, I got an email from Commissioner Harrison, and it says, I spoke with Jeremy Cinco about this. He indicated that the absence of hydrants was due to cost savings decisions made at the time the lines were initially constructed. However, he and I discussed it, and we tend to agree with you that the residents, that the current density of that area warrants these improvements. As such, Jeremy is going to allocate some improvement dollars to begin the process of installing hydrants. Barring anything unforeseen, this could reasonably be expected to be completed over the next year or so. There are a few other pockets in the system that fit into a similar profile and will be handled accordingly. But based on my discussion with Jeremy, he feels that Deerview is the appropriate first priority. Thanks for raising this issue. Feel free to reach out if you have additional questions. So, the county's picking up the tab and putting in fire hydrants on Deerview Lane for us.
Outstanding.
So, thank you, Commissioner Harrison and the Water Department. But new hydrants, chief.
Is anybody on Deerview Lane here tonight?
Okay, that's good. Lions Park?
Lions Park
Siren update.
We spoke about this, I don't know if it was the last meeting or the meeting before. It was one of the recent ones, and I had met with a young man who's quite knowledgeable about these things, and he contacted a couple companies that are interested in taking them down. One of them got back to Rick, and the company's name is Table Rock Alerting Systems. They're actually going to be in town this week. I'm going to try to meet them, Rick and I. But they will take the siren down, take the Joe box down and any equipment that's in it, and won't charge us anything, but they'll just keep it. And the pole would remain in case we want to use it for.
There's a light on there now too, isn't there?
I don't think there's a light on there now, but
Okay.
there may be something we'd want to put on there later, or Wi-Fi or something.
Right.
Something.
Do we need proof of bonding and insurance from?
Probably.
Good question. Ask the gentleman, but.
I mean, that thing's 500 pounds and it's like 20 feet.
Yeah, and they're
up.
talking about
Yeah.
either getting
Take it down at your own risk.
hell of a lift or
Yeah.
a crane.
Yeah.
So, I'll work with them with that and find out what the requirements are, but if they do meet the requirements, are you guys okay with me
Yeah.
moving forward?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now I'll make the motion that pending their proper bonding or insurance, that we allow Table Rock Alerting Systems to remove the siren and all equipment from that pole at Lions Park.
I'll second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, same sign.
Do have one thing for new business if nobody else has anything.
I don't have anything else.
Nope, new business?
We mentioned them earlier, but Foot Excavating did that cleanup for us. I've been working with, not for us, the demo on Lafayette, the brownfield. So I've been working with Brandon over at Economic Development, and everything's been approved, and it's going through all of the sign-offs and checks and all that BS at the state level for Medina to get the funding, because the county's getting the funding as a whole for a bunch of projects. The money is probably end of April, beginning of May, before we're gonna see it. Given that this work was all done in December, it is causing a little bit of an issue for Foot. The invoice was for $59,850. Economic Development has assured us that there's not going to be any issues with the funding. It's all approved and working through the process, but because of it being tied up with a bunch of other projects, we may not see it for 4 to 6 weeks. I wanted to ask the board how they felt about us going ahead and paying Foot for what they've done. Now, they know that they agreed to wait. The expectation wasn't for it to wait this long, so, it's not necessarily a deal breaker for other things, but given that we're in a position to be able to do it and it's not risking any funds, you know, I would like to make a motion to approve payment for Foot Excavating for the work that they did on that brownfield project in the amount of $59,850.
You're reasonably sure, or.
Well, I know where Brandon lives.
That we're gonna get that.
And I have it in writing, so I mean, I guess we'll have to ask the prosecutor's office to go after the county, but the county's assured us that that money is not in jeopardy. We're basically helping a small local business not have $60,000 tied up for another 2-3 months. Well, and I don't even think it'll be that long. Brandon is hoping that we see the funds within the next week or two, but was realistic in, hey, it may be the end of the month before we get it. Once the county gets it, we'll have it within a week, maybe quicker, but.
Would it be paid out of general, or are you thinking service? You have to supplement, because we don't have contingency line items.
We
for-
did it off of, didn't we, we did it off of last year's budget, I thought, because it was for before the end of the year.
But I don't know that
I'd
we
have to look.
encumbered anything, because we were waiting on a transfer, so I don't know if we have anything right now that's
Well,
sitting there, but we could certainly supplemental.
right.
And I'd be okay with it, given we're about to use them
Yeah.
on another project as well on Hunter Drive, so.
Second.
It makes sense to me. I will second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Anything else?
You guys want to keep, those are, if you want them, there's a copy for each of you.
Okay.
Just that way you'd have it for your. I've got nothing else for new business.
Chris?
Nothing from me.
Okay, good. Okay, you want public participation?
If anybody else had anything that they wanted,
If anybody wants to add anything?
the floor is back open if you'd like.
Mike Costello, 5525 Wagon Trail. Mr. Fullerton, earlier in the meeting, you made a pretty ridiculous statement, in my opinion, and I've got your second homework assignment for the meeting. Remember what the first one is?
Yep.
Okay. So the second one is to bring to the next meeting the last 25 years of records that show the township paying the deductibles for the elected officials.
I didn't say they paid the deductibles. I said.
You did.
Elected officials been getting health care for close
No,
to
no, no,
50
no,
years.
no, 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 sir. You said the deductibles have been paid for the last 50 years, so I'm gonna give you an
Okay,
easy
well,
assignment. I just need
yeah.
25.
Yeah, okay, well, that's good. I'm glad you caught that, because that's, I don't mean deductibles, I meant health care in general. They've been taken, so, yeah.
Got it. You've been caught in another lie, and now you're gonna backpedal. But I'm glad you backpedaled and admitted to it.
That's-
Thank you.
That's your opinion,
I appreciate that.
but I appreciate you catching that. Anybody else?
Back Ryan Road. The accumulation of the sick time that's paid, what is the ratio of that? Like, how is it accumulated for the,
I think it's accrued at what, Laura, 4 and 6/10 hours every 80 hours worked or something like that?
I didn't hear either one of you.
Sorry, 4 hours every 2 weeks.
And if I understood right, once they reach 120 hours of sick leave, they can't accrue anymore?
120 days.
120 days,
Or I'm sorry, 120 days. So then it's like forfeited,
Correct.
because they only get 30%.
They get a cash out option when they
Upon
retire.
upon retirement, they get it.
And are you guys thinking about changing that?
That was just
Yeah, we-
what we discussed, the possibility of. I haven't had any, like, I haven't looked too deep into whether or not we want to do that. So I'm open to what
Yeah, we
Tigers
didn't
might
we did not
bring
make
together,
a
but
a
yeah.
decision on that tonight, but
Yeah.
investigating it.
So that's like a day a month they get? Is that how that works out?
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
So a day a month, so that's 12 sick days a year? Pretty good. Okay, that's it. Yeah.
Ventura, Worcester Lane. The motion that you made last meeting regarding form fire specifically included the verbiage that you were, let me see here, that you were doing that because you were, in order to properly shop the healthcare plan, of the township. So if only 3 of the 6 participating individuals filled out form fire, how would you have expected and to be properly shopped? That just doesn't even make any sense at all. So you're not doing your fiduciary duty for the. And just so you know, form fire is used by every business. In fact, most businesses will not let the employee sign up for health insurance if they do not complete form fire in open enrollment, period. So you guys sit up here and you tell your residents things that are just blatantly false.
Yeah, I'd never heard of form filing until I started working at Lafayette. Ever.
Well, maybe you don't offer insurance at your business, or you just maybe are not
Nope.
a good businessman? I
Never,
don't know.
never,
I'm not sure.
never had an insurance company ask that. They just offer it to the employees, yeah.
Okay.
True story.
Well,
Have you ever heard of
your-
it, Chris? Have you?
But this is your job as a trustee of this township, to do this for the residents of this township. And you made a motion to do it at the last meeting. And the 3 elected officials who are here, this is not leadership. How do you tell your employees to do something that you're not willing to do? Shame on you.
Anybody else? All right. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
And it is 9:02.
3 copies.